Hey guys, it's Katie, Girl About Library, and I'm here today with my January reading wrap-up. I read 8 books in the month of January, which is a lot for me. I'm doing really well with reading right now. I'm not doing super well with YouTube. I haven't been posting. It's been like a solid 2 months since I filmed a wrap-up, or Instagram, not doing super well there. And really, you know what? Life, not doing great. I'm super sick right now, so. But I am reading. I read 8 books, which, you know, honestly, I've said that like 5 times now. The more I say it, the less impressive it sounds. It's 2 more than my average, so it's really not. Everything else can be going to crap, but when you see that little "you're on track" message, it feels good. It feels good. You can't take that away from me. You can take my health and my ability to post YouTube videos, but you can't take that away. I will have links down below to all of the books that I mentioned in this video, as well as a Goodreads reading shelf of the books that I read in January so that you can add them to your TBR. I will also have timestamps down below because inevitably there is a book you're more interested in than the others, so just skip ahead to that. We're gonna keep it short, we're gonna keep it sweet, but informative. Let's get into the books. First up is the Book of Essie, which strangely is like one of my lowest ratings for the month, but also the only physical copy I have here with me. Here she is. I give this book 2.5 stars. It has a way higher star rating on Goodreads, which I will put here. I don't know what it is, but it's higher than 2.5 stars. And so just know that. Before we get into this, I didn't enjoy this book, but lots of people have. Maybe you will enjoy this book more than I did. Maybe you won't once I start talking about it. This book follows a girl named Essie. She is a senior in high school. She and her family are in a TV program called 6 for Hicks. It's like a Duggery type TV program, only I think this program is a lot more popular than the Duggars because she's on shows like Entertainment Tonight, which, like, unless there's a huge scandal, does not happen for the Duggars. So it's a popular TV show, but it's the same idea. There are 3 different perspectives in this book. There's Essie, there's a high school boy that she goes to school with, and then there is a girl named Liberty who is a reporter, but she grew up in a situation very similar to Essie's, and so they're able to relate on that level. At the beginning of the book, Essie finds out that she is pregnant, and it's pretty much the driving story throughout the book. What is she going to do about her pregnancy? How does her family react to it? And then how are they going to kind of cover that up? I had so many problems reading this book. I think one of them was that it had such a high star rating on Goodreads, so going into it, I thought I was going to enjoy it a lot more than I actually did. That's hype and hits us all. On top of that though, this book did a couple of things that really got under my skin. Number one, it's a character-driven novel. It is definitely not plot-driven. There's not that much going on. And I think anytime a book is character-driven, but there's 3 different perspectives, and you don't get to know any one of those perspectives especially well, we have a problem. It isn't the Book of Essie. It's the Book of Essie and 2 other perspectives. I don't think that alone would have gotten me to 2.5 stars though. The real issue for me with this book, I'm gonna try not to go off. Anytime you're reading a book, there is going to be some motivation for you to turn the page. So if it's a thriller, you want to know who done it. If it is character-driven, you want to get to know the character better. How do they feel at the end of the book? What happens to them? Because there were so many perspectives in this book, it didn't feel like I should be motivated to finish it because I wanted to get to know the characters better. I didn't feel like I knew the characters that much better at the end of the book than I did at the beginning. It really felt like at the beginning of the book, you find out Essie is pregnant, but you don't find out who the father is. And it's this looming thing throughout the entire book. And every interaction she has with a male individual, you stop and ask yourself, could this be the father? It felt like this book, and I don't want to spoil it, I'm not going to say who the father is, but it felt like this book was leading me along because I was supposed to be interested to see whether or not it was her father or her who raped her. And as the book goes on, the number of people it could have been gets more and more narrow, which makes it darker and darker as to what could have happened to her. That's not exciting for me. And it's because what I what I want is to get to know Essie better. I want to know how she feels about what happened to her. I want to know how she's processing everything. And I think that would have been a lot harder of a book to write. That's not even the only difficult topic that this book tries to tackle. So for it not to have done that one well, it didn't do any of the other ones well. And I honestly don't understand why this book is so popular. I did not enjoy it. I do not recommend it. I think it's really problematic. And so, discussion down in the comments. After that, I read Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I gave this book 4 stars. It comes out in March. It's very exciting. This was actually my first Taylor Jenkins Reid novel, which is shocking. I've had 7 Husbands on my shelves for a very long time. I need to read it. I know I need to read it. I want to. But it's been hyped so much that it was kind of like, this was an option that wasn't hyped yet. And so I started with this one. This book is a novelization of a rock documentary. And so it kind of looks like a script where you can see like who's speaking and then their blurb of text, which took a little while to get used to, but I really liked it. It was light, but also it deals with some pretty difficult topics. And I don't want to get too much into it because the book hasn't come out yet, but I'm excited for everyone to read this one. It's good. After that is a bunch of really dark stuff. The holidays were over, I guess, and I don't know. I didn't realize it until after the fact, but there's some dark stuff coming. I mean, the Book of Essie was darker than expected. Things got really dark. I read The Fact of a Body. It is probably the darkest book I've ever read, potentially. I gave this book 4.5 stars, almost 5 stars. It was really, really good. It was also a book I would never in a million years recommend to another reader just because it is so dark and it was so hard for me to read. I can't imagine how hard it would be if someone had more like personal experience with what's in this book. So I wouldn't feel comfortable recommending it to other readers, but we're going to chat about it. The Fact of a Body is part memoir and part true crime. The true crime parts of the book look at the murder of Jeremy Gallory by a man named Ricky Langley. Ricky Langley was a convicted pedophile who was released from prison. He lived in a home near where Jeremy Gallory lived. Jeremy went to Ricky's house looking for a friend. Ricky invited him inside, where he murdered him, assaulted him, and then put him in a closet where Jeremy was found several days later. The details of the murder, or to the extent that we know them from Ricky, are in the book, and so that was incredibly dark to read. I mean, the first couple chapters of this book are just horrifying. This book is so well researched, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's really elevated in my mind above your normal nonfiction or memoir book. One of the things this book does that you don't see as often is it really goes behind the scenes of Ricky Langley's life, the murderer, not in a way that humanizes him because Ricky is a terrible person for having did what he did, but it shows the criminal justice system in a way that you really understand how a pedophile like Ricky could fall through the cracks. The author showed so many times when Ricky or Ricky's mother had gone to a person of authority at a prison or at a mental health facility and said, Ricky needs help. Ricky has these uncontrollable compulsions to do terrible things. What do we do? What do I do with him? And Ricky himself, before he was released from prison, said, please don't let me out of here. I can't control what I'm going to do. And it's just amazing to see all of these times gathered together. So that's in the book, but also it's a memoir about the author because she goes to law school. She learns about Ricky and Jeremy. She does not believe in the death penalty, and when she hears about Ricky's case, she has this overwhelming feeling that she's never had before of he deserves the death penalty. It was really unsettling for her, and so she kind of digs deeper into why she felt that way. As it turns out, her life has a lot of overlap with both Jeremy, the victim's life, and also Ricky, the murderer's life. It's really hard to discuss this book without spoilers. It gets very dark, obviously, but it's also a book where if you like true crime, it's so weird to read a book like this because if you like true crime, this is always going to be one of the books that's at the top of the list for me for that. But because of all of the things that it discusses, it doesn't feel like a book I would recommend to other people. Considering that though, I learned a lot. I really enjoyed reading this book because it is so raw and unfiltered. So if you're here for that, check this one out. After that, I read What We Talk About When We Talk About Rape, which I give 4 stars. I actually listened to this book. I wouldn't usually follow up my last read with this, but it was the pick for a book club, and I usually try to like swing on the pendulum between like dark and like a little bit of a lighter read, but this was the pick for book club and I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I listened to it and I think I might have actually enjoyed it more if I had read it. I don't have that much to say about this one. I think the thing that's great about it is it takes a really like global look at rape, whereas being in the United States, a lot of what I hear and what I'm exposed to is, you know, rape culture in the United States and how what's going on with that. But this book looks especially at India and how what rape culture looks like there and how it's being handled there. It is Own Voices. The author herself was raped and she talks about that. And there are lots of other people's stories in the book. It had a really like wide net of things that it talked about, and so it might have benefited from focusing on just a few things, but it was really interesting. It's a good book club pick. There's a lot of stuff to discuss here. After that, I read A Ladder to the Sky by John Boyne, which I gave 5 stars, all of the stars. He is he's so good. This book, guys, this one is also kind of dark. It's just a running theme for this month. It is also adult fiction, and it's very adult fiction-y. So some of the books that I read, if you enjoy young adult fiction, you might also like. I would say this one is like solidly in the adult fiction category. The main character, Maurice, is a terrible person. The first 2 chunks of the book, because it's kind of like split into 3 chunks, the first 2 are from other people's perspectives, and then the last chunk is from Maurice's perspective. Maurice is an aspiring author, and he will do anything for a story, but he is just not creative enough to come up with his own material, and he's very aware of that. And so instead of trying to come up with bad stories, he just steals stories from other people's lives, or he steals other people's material, and he uses that to build his novel. I knew this was going to be really character heavy because his last book, The Heart's Invisible Furies, was very like character heavy, but this book is also very much a thriller because you can't stand Maurice and you see him doing all of these terrible things and you just want him to get caught so badly. Even if he's not caught by like the authorities, if he's just caught out by someone who he's taking advantage of, it would just be so satisfying. And so you spend a lot of the book waiting for that moment, and it feels like a thriller. 5 stars, highly recommend, really enjoyed. The last 3 books that I read were all YA. Here we go. The first one I read was The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas, which I gave 4 stars. Angie Thomas is coming to the city where I live, and I wanted to go, but kind of needed to read her book before I went. I'm late to the game with YA, like, just consistently. That's my brand. That's just my life. I've accepted it. This was a little too late, and I should have read this book sooner, so I am sorry for that. If you're not familiar with the story or the many rave reviews of this book, I will link some Own Voices reviews of this book below because there have been so many good ones. I don't really have anything extra to add to the discussion. It's just really good, and even if you haven't read this book yet, you should. After that, I read Hearts Unbroken, which I gave 1 star. That is not a rating that I give out very often. It's somewhere between a 1 and a 2 for me, but when I finished it, I landed on a 1. This book is Own Voices. It has an important message. I can totally understand why there are readers who really connect with this. For me, I felt like to give it more stars than that just would not have been reflective of my reading experience. It had a miscommunication trope in it that almost made me DNF, but I was like 75% of the way done with it, so I just had to finish it up. It was also for book club, so I knew I wanted to finish it so that I could discuss it. So The Hunger Games I read at the end of the month. I read it because I was doing the Hunger Along, and I will link down below to Rihanna's channel where we had our group chat about Hunger Games. That was so much fun. I was pretty sick when we filmed that though. I don't think I mentioned that to any of them, but I was really ill. So I didn't say very much. It's all kind of a fever dream at this point, but it was a good time. And I really enjoyed rereading The Hunger Games. I gave it 4 stars. I was not expecting this book to live up to a reread because I'm so familiar with the story, and also it isn't the kind of book that I would usually like and read, but I do. It's good. The pacing in this book is so strong. Like that's its strongest thing. Even when there isn't something huge happening, there's always something happening. There's always some kind of character development. There's always some thing Katniss is trying to overcome. But also, second place, this book has really good adult characters, which is probably why it's so popular, like, amongst young adult and adult readers. It was a quick read. I think I read it in like 2 days. But that's true of a lot of the books this month, which is why I had 8 books read, even though I didn't feel like I did that much reading. It was just one of those months. Like, the highs were high, but the lows were low. And so we'll see what happens next month. Comment down below, let me know if you have read any of these books. Thank you guys so much if you have made it this far for watching this. Ooh, let me know your last 1-star read. Thank you guys so much for watching this and bearing with me, even though I feel incredibly ill. Still, hopefully I will be back to making YouTube videos like on the regular soon when my health returns. Thank you guys so much for watching and for reading. Have a great day. Bye.